Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larby.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm Sarah Larby, and today's guest is Taylor Seers and Jeremy Ivany, who are super successful, and they're only 23 and 24 with over 15 properties at that age, and they started when they were 20, which is awesome. So we're going to learn a lot from today's podcast. And this amazing couple, they've actually been able to scale and be able to use creative financing by borrowing from friends and family to grow their portfolios. And all of this began when Jeremy lived in Western Canada and was renting a room for from another investor, and he was just 21. He quickly started to calculate, obviously, how much money this investor was making and realized the potential. And look at them today, just a few years later. They do a lot of JVs, joint ventures, vendor takebacks, working with credit unions, and a ton more. So we're going to learn a lot in today's podcast. They've used the BRRRR strategy. Picking the right markets is also going to be something that we've discussed, and a ton more. So I hope you guys enjoy today's podcast. And again, if you are interested in networking and coming out to a live event October 6th in the evening, send me a message, sarah@sarahlarby.com. We are going to have a ton of great real estate content. We have a comedian as well that is going to be performing, food, drinks, networking, and so much more. So send me an email if you're interested in some more information about that, sarah@sarahlarby.com. I hope you guys enjoy the show. Jeremy, Taylor, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited to have the both of you on. You've done so much inspirational things in real estate investing, and I think there's time on your side, which is awesome. So I think you'll do plenty more. But for those that may not know who Jeremy and Taylor, your background and how you got started into real estate, maybe you can start there and give us a little bit of that background.
Yeah, for sure. So Taylor and myself, Taylor's 23 and I'm 24. We got started in real estate just over 20 months ago, and to date we've purchased 15 properties, and we've got a couple more closing in the next few weeks here. So we've really scaled our portfolio quite quickly. We really got interested in real estate really through Bigger Pockets podcast. And then from there kind of spiraled on to obviously going up to meetups, meeting other investors and seeing other people who were able to retire from real estate. So really early on in our life, we were inspired about, obviously coming up to this point where, hey, we can just kind of live off of passive income. And really once we found out about that, we just hit the ground running and never looked back.
Very cool. I wish I started that early. So when did you actually buy your first investment property?
So it was 2019, end of June, 2019.
Yeah. Okay. And how old were you guys then?
21.
Nice. Yes. Awesome. That is cool. So did anybody prior to listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast, talk to you about investing in real estate, or was it strictly you started Googling some podcasts? Like how did the trigger, even the thought of this start about?
Yeah, well, I guess it was from me because when I was 18, I moved out west and I lived in a home with a bunch of guys who were working on the oil sands, and our landlord owned like 5 properties on the street, and we were, he was just renting out rooms to everybody working on these job sites. And we were paying anywhere from, $800 to $1,000 a room. And I mean, I had a lot of time on my hands. I just moved out there alone. So I couldn't help but think like this guy was making a lot of money just from owning these properties. So then, we kind of got into conversation about that. And then I learned, obviously he was a big real estate investor and he was only 21 at the time, and was really close to basically being able to retire and, kind of just live off of passive income. But then, as the years went on, basically up till we were about 20, it wasn't really in the back of our head, but we did purchase a single family residence when we were 19 and 20. Mm-hmm. And we kind of did, the BRRRR model on that. We went in there, it was a house that needed a lot of work. We went in there, renovated the property, and really we were able to raise the value. I mean, from purchase price to sale price, double, which was really a light bulb moment for us. Like, hey, we can, go work 2,000 hours each a year and make $80,000, or we can, flip a house or whatever and make $80,000, and by doing a lot less work. So was definitely a light bulb moment for us.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I wasn't really on board at that point. Like we had bought our first house and it needed work because that's basically what we could afford at that point. And then we had done the refi. At the same time we did the refi, we went to OREC in London, and that was like at that point for me, I was like, I don't want to spend $250 on like this real estate course. And then we went together and it was great, and that's where I really got on board. And then we used that money to get our first 2 duplexes.
Very cool. And how long did it take you? So I guess it just took you, 3-4 years, not even to get to your 15.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did you scale up so quickly?
So I guess in 2019, when we bought our first one, we bought 2 we were trying to purchase a property in London, and we just weren't able to. I mean, the market was really hot. Obviously, being new investors, we weren't savvy. We didn't see opportunities that maybe some of the experienced investors saw. So I went to a meetup one night and I met some investors who invested in Chatham. Honestly, that night I went on the realtor.ca. I saw a couple duplexes in Chatham, drove down the next day, and we got them both under contract. And that's honestly how it started. And then from there, we kind of, or maybe I shouldn't speak for Taylor, but I thought I was a hero because I just bought 2 properties. So then we bought another property, not even really realizing like, hey, we don't even have money to purchase this property. And we went firm on it, everything. So then we kind of had to get creative there. Like, how are we going to come up with the down payment? How are we going to come up with the renovation money? Because the property we purchased needed a lot of money. And then we realized like, this is very scalable. It's not, it's not obviously not rocket science. I mean, all you really need is a property that, has potential to raise the value, and you need to basically be able to figure out how to come up with this down payment and close on it. So from then on, we just kind of hit the ground running. And
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm just curious. I mean, I feel like this is the obvious next question. How did you come up with the money for that third property?
So we borrowed money from our family, actually. And the funny thing is we thought we could borrow money as for down payments. When we hold, Scotiabank did not like that. So then we thought we were geniuses. We're like, hey, we got some money from our parents. It's super cheap interest rates. This is amazing. And then, we showed it to our mortgage broker, and she was like, that's not going to fly. So then really what we had to do is we just had to kind of prolong, when we were going to show them proof of our down payment, just so that it was seasoned in our bank account. And that's really how we were able to get around that particular hurdle.
Yeah, because not all lenders, it depends on the lenders. And I just want to take a step back to explain so everyone's on the same page. Not all lenders will look at gifted money or parents' money as a form of down payment. Some do, some don't, right? So what you're saying when you're talking about it being vested is if it's in your account for a certain amount of time, if the bank asks you to go back 30, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days or whatnot, at some point it becomes your money, quote unquote, in their eyes for the down payment. And technically you could probably use your HELOCs for your down payment, which I'm sure a lot of people do. And maybe you guys, did that down the road. But can I ask, so you were both working full-time jobs at the time?
Yeah.
And what about today?
No. So I do real estate full-time. Taylor still works her full-time job.
Yeah. But our first few properties, I was always part-time. I was always part-time until just recently. I was in university still, and Jeremy did trade, so he was working.
Yeah, there's never been a time where Taylor and myself have ever had a full-time job at the same period of time. Even when I quit my full-time day job, Taylor was only working part-time, but I just saw this opportunity. It's like, okay, if I focus 40 hours a week instead of just 20 hours every night and on the weekends, like we can really pump this thing up and grow an aggressive portfolio. And that's exactly what we've done. Like since I've quit my day job, we've purchased more properties than we did with a full-time day job. So, I mean, it's just that security mindset where you're like, hey, I need this income coming in every week. But then I was always thinking, okay, how much more money can I make, when I'm not just, working hourly for somebody else? Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way to think about it. I mean, did your friends and your family think that you were crazy when you decided to just go ahead and do that instead of working the job life?
Absolutely.
So maybe if you wouldn't mind just sharing some of the comments or the feedback. I mean, of course they mean well, but what are some of the things that you got from them?
Yeah, like, I mean, my parents were on board with it because, they raised me, and they raised me kind of the way that I am, like, be ambitious, go for your goals. But Taylor's parents are definitely more conservative. Like Taylor's dad's an accountant, so it's always numbers in his head. So, but even when I quit my full-time day job, like I got laid off when COVID hit, and it was just for a short period of time. But then I was able to, be on site every day, work on the renovations, find off-market deals, all that sort of stuff. And then when I got called back to work, without even really having a conversation with Taylor, like, what should we do? My boss called me and I said, I'm not coming back, because it just doesn't make sense. There's so much more opportunity out there. And regardless of, if we stop buying properties, there's always endless opportunities where, we can start our own business. Like, there's a lot more other avenues where I'm going to feel a lot more fulfilled than just grinding it for somebody else's.
You guys are true entrepreneurs with a true entrepreneurial mindset. That's awesome. I love it. So did at any point in time, because 15 is a lot, right? So I don't know, do you own them all, personally, just the both of you, or at some point did you start bringing in joint ventures?
Yeah, we did our first 7 personally, and then we were starting to get maxed out. Jeremy was kind of the main one qualifying because he was full-time and I was part-time. And then it's obviously he didn't have his COVID, everybody laid off and the banks started getting very strict. So we kind of, I also actually started doing coaching with Sarah Etter. So that kind of also made us pivot a little bit. So yeah, I started doing coaching with Sarah Etter, you got laid off. And then we started kind of focusing on joint ventures. So we've done five with joint ventures. The rest are personal. So we kind of have a combination of both right now.
Yeah, and then from there, obviously, we bought 3 more, and then we just use more creative financing strategies. Like we've done a couple of vendor takebacks. Now obviously we're able to, like with Libro, there's like a small commercial department where we're able to still purchase, single family up to 4plexes, where they're still going to qualify them under like some sort of commercial financing, where we're able to still qualify even without 2 full-time day jobs. And our portfolio cash flows really well. So it's been easy still to get mortgages.
That's cool. If you work with the right team and you know which lenders to go to at which point, it definitely opens lots of doors, right? And this is, sometimes people make the biggest mistake by just going right directly to the banks and not knowing which banks look at what to start with. And that's super, super important for sure. What are some of the things, you've scaled up really quickly. What are some of the things that, maybe challenged you along the way, or hurdles that you faced along the way?
I guess like our first 7 were fairly not easy, but like we were consistent, and we went with Scotia so financing is always stressful, but we were able to get financing. That was good. And then it was like, oh no, we don't have a job. We want to keep buying property. So going into the joint venture and learning what sort of people we like to work with, what people we don't like to work with, and setting expectations and stuff. So kind of the joint venture world was kind of a new hurdle and things to learn that way. And then, of course, your lovely tenants, having some tenants that use drugs or need lots of support themselves makes it difficult. But those are like things that have definitely made us have some thicker skin.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Like, there's been times definitely where we've said like, hey, we should just step back. Like, we have enough. And then obviously like there's been a lot of growing pains because, like we see deals and we're like, we want to buy like everything, but it's just not obtainable. And, there's definitely times where we just have to say, okay, like, let's just cool off for a couple months. Cause like, it's been, just growing aggressively. Like, we like everything to be like as perfect as possible. And like Taylor and myself, like we work on the business a lot. So, even with doing joint ventures or taking on properties, like with joint ventures, and like you have these expectations to meet and, wanting to make sure our joint ventures are happy, obviously, while not kicking people out on the street to, meet some of these ROI expectations, things like that. Like that's been a struggle, obviously, with just trying to keep everything a balance. But other than that, we just work really hard at it and try and, like, if we have an issue, we just try and solve it immediately, opposed to just kind of letting it drag on.
So just curious, like the people originally that told you guys are crazy, what are you doing? This is, just absurd. Are they still saying that, or are they now seeing the opportunity that maybe they weren't seeing in the beginning?
Well, I think even now too, like even looking back 2 years ago, we kind of all look like geniuses just by purchasing real estate. It's appreciated so much. So that plays a factor in it as well. Arguably we could have bought the worst real estate when we started and we would still be very well off. So it's really hard for people to argue that what we've done is wrong. But of course too, like we're young, we have a lot, like it's a lot of debt that we've taken on, like mortgage debt, right? So there's always that fear I'm sure people have where, what about if interest rates go up, all this other stuff. But I mean, if you're always just going to look about like, what's my worst case scenario, then you're never going to go anywhere. You're just going to be working that, $15 an hour job for the rest of your life, thinking, and not even really thinking like, what if COVID hits again and I don't have my job anymore, right? Like there's a lot worse outcomes then.
I think people are more supportive now. Before they were like scared for us or like, you guys are crazy. And now if like you'll talk to family and they're like, oh my God, that's crazy, bought another house. Or like, we kind of like try to keep it on the down low, but like family will be like, so what's new? We're like, oh, we're closing on a 12-plex or like something like that. So then they're like all freaked out again, but it's not like scared. It's just like, wow, that's overwhelming. And like, it's hard. I think it's hard for people to comprehend.
Yeah, I know, like even when we were at Taylor's parents a couple of weeks ago, and I was just telling Taylor's dad, like, or he had just asked, like, what else are you guys working on? I said, oh, like we bought a property on the water and that we're going to flip. And he's like, what do you guys, like, how many properties do you guys have? And he didn't even know. I mean, he thought like we had maybe 5 or 6 properties still. Like he really wasn't, I mean, I'm sure he knew, but it just didn't really go through. So, I mean, like it was a shocker for sure, but they're all supportive now. I mean, at this point, they have to be supportive. Like, there's no sense saying turn back now. Like we're already in the trenches. So
nice. That's awesome. And obviously, it sounds like you've been quite busy acquiring in 2020 and 2021. How are you finding? And I know you mentioned you're doing some creative things, but how are you finding deals right now in a market where there is probably a shortage like we've never seen before?
Yeah, I mean, most of our deals lately have been off market. I think this quarter we did 4 wholesale deals, and I think we've purchased 3 or 4 properties off market. So, and like these are all properties we're finding. It's all about just planting seeds. I mean, anybody that we come in contact, if I see anything like on Facebook, on Instagram, if I know somebody that lives in Chatham where we invest, the first thing we're thinking of is like, how do we talk to you? Because I want to know who you are. And it's not just, it's the first question isn't, I want to buy your property. It's, hey, I'm an investor in Chatham. Maybe there's going to come a point where we both need each other. Let's just stay connected with each other, talking to property managers. We do a lot of flyering as well too. It's really, we're just doing anything and everything to get in front of people, let them know who we are, and just kind of building that reputation of this is the thing, we actually buy houses, right? A lot of people who send out flyers that say we buy houses don't buy houses. So we have that going for us too. And this is things that are coming up in the media now. People are coming more and more aware. So we're actually able to say, look, we actually own properties in this neighborhood. Yeah. What we're trying to do is improve the neighborhoods. People are more apt to sell to us. And it's been something that's worked well for us.
Yeah. So it sounds like flyers, just networking, connecting virtually, I guess, for the time being. Are you doing, any door to door, or are you strictly trying, like, keeping this virtual right now with Facebook and connecting with people on there? How's that working?
Yeah. Like we bought a property, 2 weeks? We bought a property 2 weeks ago, and this was just, driving around from property to property. And then, all of a sudden I see a property with a bunch of garbage inside. And again, this is investor instinct. I need to know what's going on in this. I need to know who owns this house because there's something wrong with this house and I want to solve their problem. So again, figuring out who owns the property, finding them on Facebook, and just having this like, hey, it's not to be weird, but I know you own this house. And if you're even interested, if you're ever thought of selling it, let me know. I actually own a house a couple doors down from you. I'd love to bring it up to its best and highest use. And that's another way. Even talking to property managers, like we've met, property managers in the community that have, and again, we're always letting people know, if you bring us to a deal, or even if you just show me a property, even if I don't buy it, I'm still willing to compensate you. Like this past weekend, a property manager showed us a couple deals, and I just gave him $250. Thanks for your time. If anything like this comes up again, I'm more than happy to, take a look at it. The first thing that came out of his mouth is, hey, next weekend I might have a 4-plex for you to look at, right? This might have not happened if I was just trying to be in this like take mentality.
That's cool. And so you've offered them money just to bring you into a house that's off market?
Absolutely.
That is very cool. That is a great tip, because it will, it'll help that wheel in their minds turn over and say, what else can I bring, Jeremy and Taylor to, because even if they don't buy it, I know I'm getting something out of it. I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah. And like even a couple months ago, he sold us or he helped us find another property, and we gave him $1,000. And funny enough, we would have never looked at these properties last weekend, but our realtor and us, like we're always back and forth communicating with each other, and he's trying to help us grow, and obviously we're trying to help him grow by getting more clients and stuff. But he had just sent me a message, and he said, Jeremy, you're really slowing down with the off-market deals. And this would have been 2 weeks ago. So right away in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to start messaging everybody I know, because I can't believe you just said that to me. The next day we had a property under contract, and then the next weekend we were going to look at 2 more, right? So it's just like, there's always opportunities out there. Sometimes we get stale, we're just caught in the day-to-day, but it's always about having these relationships. And he was happy to just show me properties because he knew I paid him money last time. And I just said, hey, look, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to purchase these properties. I'm hopeful we're going to, but if not, here's money anyways, because you just took, 2 hours out of your Saturday to come help me out. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that is like an A+ tip right there. Love it. So you guys are both working on the business. How do you split, who does what? I don't know if you're self-managing, but maybe Taylor, you can go into a little bit of how, the real estate business gets shared between the both of you.
Yeah. I actually just listened to Traction recently. So we've been doing weekly meetings kind of based on the Traction model. Traction is just like a book about basically a system. Like if you're a big business, how would you like run your business and have it systemized? So from that book, Jeremy would be the visionary and then I would be the integrator. So Jeremy is more like, but big picture, big ideas. We should do all these things. I'm like, okay, let's be realistic. What can we do and how can we do it? So we have weekly meetings and talk about those things. But in terms of like split up, we use Buildium to manage our properties. So anything that's like maintenance requests, things like that, Jeremy deals with. I'm like taking all the rent and if so some things we share. So like what's an example? Like even like communicating with tenants, both of us are on Buildium, so both of us can respond, but it's kind of like who's like, I'm more relationship wise. If there's like an issue, something going on like that, then I'll talk to them. Jeremy's like, oh, they like talking to the females. The females are nice or whatever. Where then, if it's maintenance, it's you. Jeremy's on the job. So he's in Chatham every day, Monday to Friday. And I'm at my job Monday to Friday. So you're definitely like a lot more into the renovations and maintenance.
Yeah, I'm more like day-to-day, whereas you're more behind the scenes, setting up property taxes and utility. Like I wouldn't even know if I know how to set up utilities.
Getting the leases organized. And then we've kind of worked on outsourcing some things. So we have somebody in Chatham that shows the properties for us. So I got that all organized and hired him. And now we have someone else that's going to be helping us with the other part of that. So instead of paying someone to like lease out of properties, we're just paying people hourly to do parts of it basically. And then we're overseeing it all. So a lot of it gets taken up by property management.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And so you talked about property management. So the day-to-day, the maintenance stuff goes through Buildium. Are you then sending that to somebody? Are you managing it, or does your property manager have access to that? Do you have one?
We don't have a property manager. So it's either Jeremy and I. We have some people that are on Buildium that are handyman, so they can go and take the request right away. Otherwise, we'll just call the plumber, electrician, or whoever it is and get them to go to it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I self-manage my stuff as well. Like, I mean, it sounds like you guys have the systems down, and you just, if you have a good team like that are local, like handy people and plumbers and, HVAC people, like essentially that's often what they'll do, right? Is direct that. So do you live in Chatham as well?
No.
Where do you guys live?
We're just about an hour outside of Chatham. So actually we're just outside of London, which leaves us just about an hour from Chatham.
Okay. So it's not like you're in the area necessarily. So when you're going there Monday to Friday, maybe walk us through, it sounds like you're managing some of the renos, but what are some of the tasks that you're doing when you're out there?
Honestly, for the last year and a half, like I've been like on the job, like we've been like, and this is the crazy thing. Like I know a lot of people say you can't build a business being in the business, but for the last year and a half, like I've been in the business, like hanging drywall, running, like I'm an electrician by trade. So I want to save, $65, $70 an hour by just doing it myself. It's something I can justify. So I'm, doing a lot of electrical stuff, overseeing, I'm visiting various projects when we have a lot on the go, just making sure everything's up to par and, moving along properly. I would say, once a week I'm looking at something off market, or at least, meeting with investors who are getting into the market, as well as too, we're doing a lot of coaching now. We're doing a lot of coaching, just helping other investors kind of get started. And that's been something that's definitely been taking up a lot more of my time, which is why now I'm stepping off of the renovation projects and, really just doing more of like an oversight, which is naturally just going to help us grow our business more and more, which is ideally what we want to see. And then obviously, and with that too, like I said, like we want everything to be perfect. So, I mean, with hiring people out, things, get forgotten or whatever. And, it's definitely a struggle. And sometimes you think like, I'm just going to do this all myself. But at this point, it's really hard to, be a one-man show. I mean, there's a lot on the go and for any given day.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to work, on the business at some point and get yourself out of being in the business.
For sure.
So it sounds like you've got, a lot of stuff on the go. Are you doing BRRRRs with these? Is it multifamily? Is it singles to conversions? Like what types of properties are like your bread and butter properties?
So we've done our first two were duplexes, and then we did single family, triplex. And then we have 3 4plexes now, and we just recently closed on a 12plex with a partner. So 1 to 4 is, or we only have 1 single family, but 2 to 4 is where we have a majority of them. At this point, we prefer like at least a triplex or higher, or if we find a duplex or single family, we're just wholesaling them. I guess a single family we'll do a flip on. We are kind of interested in, we've done a lot of BRRRRs and long-term buy and holds, and we want to get some more active income coming in. So that's why we've kind of doing some more flips and coaching. But yeah, BRRRR model, like we're hopefully ideally doing the BRRRR model on this 12plex, and gonna do some work on that and then refinance within a year.
Yeah, I mean, I think for now though, like Taylor said, we're trying to obviously purchase buildings with more units in them, and ideally, it'd be in our best interest to try and purchase more things that are more purpose built, like some of these 12plexes or 4plexes that are more purpose built. Because I mean, anytime that you're buying these, makeshift duplexes or triplexes, they've been cut up over the last 70 years, and like with that comes a lot more management, maintenance, footsteps from any other unit coming through. So it just gives us a lot more issues. So now that we've kind of got the, some of the smaller stuff, like we'd really like to put together some bigger deals, which is obviously why we bought that 12plex and actively looking to purchase more. So
very cool. So can you walk us through maybe, what the 12plex looked like from a financial standpoint, like, how you found it, maybe the purchase price. And I think you guys are kind of in the process of it, but maybe your approximate estimations of what it's going to look like when it's done.
Yeah, we found it off market. It was actually a deal that was listed on market a year and a half ago. And we, funny enough, I actually connected an investor with a really cheap 4plex in London, Ontario. And I guess to add to that, we only focus on one market. Even though we're from London, we only focus on Chatham because it helps us just stay, like, it's just a lot easier to manage. I know I see a lot of investors going town to town to town. Anytime I see something London, I've got a couple investors, I always just throw it out to them first. So we connected an investor with a 4plex, and there's a motel next door. So the owner of that motel owned the 12plex in Chatham. Just through conversation, she knew we wanted to buy a 12plex in Chatham. And actually the partner that we wanted to purchase an apartment building with was at that 4plex one day and was just talking to the owner and was like, hey, I've got a 12plex in Chatham, I'm willing to sell. So it was like really strange coincidence. So yeah, we were able to purchase it off market. We were able to purchase it for 1.1 million, which is really cool because there's a couple investors who have purchased some of the ones next door to us for far greater. So we were able to get it under market value, and it's definitely underperforming right now. It's at about 60% market rent. So there's a lot of room for growth, and that's the plan. Really what we want to do is turn over units. And then like Taylor said, next year we want to refinance it. We're kind of hoping to be just over that $2 million mark with the refinance.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about 5 more and more units is that you can qualify from a commercial standpoint, and it's based on the property more so than you guys. But it's about the net operating income, right? So, working on increasing the gross income and decreasing the expenses, and that with the cap rate essentially can create your value, which is pretty awesome. Let's talk about like just what you guys have. I mean, you've done so much, so far. Like, do you have like 5-year goals or 3-year goals of things that you want to accomplish that you guys have talked about?
So when I did Sarah Etter's coaching, basically that last week is like fit your 5-year plan. So we had talked about like things that we wanted to do in 5 years. So like potentially have kids, go travel, and maybe own a bigger house, like different things like that. And we kind of broke it down to how much money we would need for each of those things within the 5 years. And then we broke it down again, which is like traction is like you just break down everything. So now we have quarterly goals that we try to meet, and we still adjust them based on where we're at each month. So like the end of this quarter is happening really soon. So we kind of plan for the next quarter. So whatever some of our goals for this, like
for this year?
For this quarter, I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, like last quarter, we just had a goal. Hey, let's buy 1 or 2 buy and holds. We were able to, surpass that. We wanted to do a bunch of coaching. We were able to get into that, which was exciting. And then we wanted to do some more like active income. We just wanted to do 1 flip or 1 wholesale. We did 4 wholesales. But yeah, like I think our 5-year goal is really to just try and make this business as passive as possible, because again, like we're not really money driven. It's actually one of the last things that drives us. It's kind of hard to say that because obviously with real estate, there's just a bunch of money involved.
Yeah.
But for us, what we really want to see with our life is like, we want to have a big family. We want to have like a nice house on a farm, like on a big piece of land where we can, do everything at our house. We want to travel a lot more. So that's really where we're trying to pivot to. And like, that's why we obviously want to purchase some of these more like turnkey buildings where they're not, so close to being torn down.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, you guys are definitely well on your way, and you're doing, plenty of things to, take action and move forward, which is great to see. So the next part of the podcast is the lightning round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions that every guest that comes on gets as well. You can answer them separately if you want. If you have different answers, maybe we'll do that. And if you have the same answer, then that's cool too. Are you ready to play?
Yes.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite real estate investing book?
Mine's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And the reason it's a real estate investor book is like getting in front of, off-market leads, talking to tenants. It's a book that's really going to help educate you on like how to present yourself, how to deal with people who, have emotions involved, all that sort of stuff. It's been instrumental in my success for sure.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Mine is Traction. That was one of my recent ones, but I feel like I got a lot from that and kind of like systemized our life because of it.
All right. Awesome. Good choices. Question number 2, this doesn't have to be real estate specifically, but if you are listeners of podcasts, are there any that you recommend?
It's not a real estate one, and I'll say a real estate one, but one I've been like super interested in, which is crazy, is Dateline. It's like a murder mystery podcast. But the podcast, like I don't really listen to a whole lot of real estate podcasts anymore. And the reason being is like, and this happens a lot when I'm doing a lot of coaching, is, a lot of investors get hung up in a lot of this information. And I always just I like to simplify things. So, but when I was listening to the podcast, and there was a time where we were listening to maybe 2 or 3 a day, it was crazy. Andrew Hines was a big one for Taylor and myself. That was the one that we kind of stumbled upon, as well as Bigger Pockets. But I think for a lot of people who've listened to Bigger Pockets, obviously it's a lot more US driven. And, with Andrew Hines, at least like there was guests on there that we knew. So it was kind of more inspiring. We could see like, hey, this is a person from London who's grown a sizable portfolio. Maybe we can do this as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The same thing for you, Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Question number 3. What do you do for fun aside from work and real estate?
We like camping, being outside. So we got like a little blow up kayak a couple of years ago. taking, like, we have a beagle, so we go out
We love
for
our beagle.
walks. Basically, when we were talking about this, we knew what the Lightning 5 was, so we were like discussing what things we liked, and basically everything was to do with being outside.
Yeah, being outside, being together, like just spending time with each other. Like that was one thing last year that we're trying to do differently this year is we were so heavily involved, like concentrated on growing a business. It was like, hey, like we're spending a lot of time together, but we're not spending like a lot of like quality time together. So now this year it's more like, let's actually like take weekends off. Let's not work every single night, and let's actually enjoy like the whole process, because it's so easy to get caught up in like, I need to buy another property. I need to renovate this property on a Saturday because it can't wait one more month or whatever, right? And so now we're just trying to take a step back.
Yeah, we've just been like booking an Airbnb every few months just to go to a random place. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, you got to enjoy the process along the way, right? I mean, otherwise you're going to come to your end goal and you'll look back and regret it. So
yeah.
Good. Number 4, if you lost all of your money and your assets tomorrow, how would you start again?
I would start with like a house hack and really try and, because that was a big thing for us. I mean, like saving $50,000-$80,000 at 20, 21 years old is like very difficult to do without maybe owning a business since you were 18. So I would try and get into a house hack, a property that's, undervalued, where you can go in there, increase the, raise the value of the property. And then from there on, obviously it's hard to say this, but like I would just do exactly what we did beyond that, because it worked for us. And I think, it was a strategy that wasn't as risky for us. I mean, we were buying in a market that cash flowed very well. So.
Yeah, and giving away, like, we really became friends with a lot of the people in London that are investors. There was a really great investor community in London. So I think something that doesn't cost you any money is becoming friends with the people, not just acquaintances or like networking, but like actually building real relationships with people, because they also are very helpful and it's fun. I know you have a big investor community and like the Empire Girls and Empress.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so important. And even just looking at like the top 5, right? Like who do you hang out with the most other than your family? And in the top 5, you'll be the average of that. So it is really cool when you're surrounded by other really successful investors and you can bounce ideas off of each other over, maybe some fire, marshmallows, s'mores, and wine.
Yeah, exactly.
Good times for sure. Awesome. Last question. If somebody has $50,000 and they want to get started, how would you recommend they spend it?
I think Taylor and I can both say, like, would probably be the same answer. I mean, I would just try and learn as much as you can on like some of the free resources. I don't think it's that important to get like, hire a coach or, get into a mentorship group when you're first getting started, because again, we both truly believe real estate, I mean, at the low level, when you're buying duplexes, triplexes, it's not that complex, right? I mean, once you can really understand just how to run your numbers properly, it's quite easy. So I would just try and, learn as much as I could, and then use that $50,000 on a BRRRR project, maybe. And then at least that way, you're going to be able to keep, you're going to be able to use like the small sum of money you have to keep, growing your portfolio.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything you want to add, Taylor?
No, I think I feel like Jeremy kind of switched the questions for the first, like in the first situation, or the question before was, if you didn't have any money, you can't buy your first property. But if you have your $50,000, for sure, I would recommend a BRRRR. If you don't have any money, then what can you do for free? Like basically, like, so like work with other investors. Yeah, work with other investors for free. Maybe you're the working partner on a joint venture.
Yeah, and even like Mandy Branham brought up a good point. Like joint ventures don't have to be 50-50. I mean, it's very easy to just go to your family and friends and say, hey, if you buy a property, you put in everything, I'll do all the work, and all I get is 20%. And the reason why I'm not getting 50 is because I've never done this before, but I believe there's an opportunity here. If you can just trust me, and just kind of break it down for them, that's another good way to get into it. You don't always need half of the cookie. So
yeah, absolutely. That's very well said, guys. This was wonderful. Where can the listeners reach out, find out more about you? Where can they go?
Instagram is probably the best. Mine is TAYL Jean JEAN.
Mine's Jeremy Ivany. You'll see all my renovation projects, so you won't miss it.
Very cool. And this is always the last question. Any final last words of advice? Maybe we'll have Taylor start first, and then Jeremy, you can finish with your last words of advice.
Sounds good. Words of advice. If I say, I don't know what I'm trying to think. I think just getting into the community more than surface level. Like, a lot of people, there's tons of people that are trying to like network online, and I think it's a lot more difficult right now with COVID, but there's a difference between people that are like just random people that are reaching you out on Facebook or Instagram versus people that like are genuine and want to provide value or learn from you. And you can get a lot more value back from somebody if you are being more of like a genuine and like building a relationship with somebody than just being like a regular surface level social media in relationship, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
That is very, very true. Absolutely. Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, I would just try and simplify things. If you're trying to get started, simplify things. Like I said, we do a lot of coaching with new investors, and the first thing that I can always see is people are wrapped up in a lot of this information. And for the most part, it's very, it's very basic. Once we can, peel back the layers and really see, okay, like what do we need? Okay, we need a deal and we need money. Well, I have money, I need to find a deal. Okay, so that should be really the only thing you think about. I remember going to a lunch with a bunch of our two investors who were just eager to, meet me and, learn from me. And the biggest thing they got out of the conversation was stop listening to podcasts and start working with a realtor, because it was just all of this. I'm looking online at these deals. None of them make sense. And, I said to them, like, have you went out and looked at the property? And they said, no. And I said, so how come you don't know if you can add a coach house in the backyard or a third unit in the basement, right? You're not going to see these things if you're just going to sit at home and think, well, it doesn't make sense on paper. So, obviously I can't do it. So I just really simplify things. So
I've thought of something better. I feel like after you said that, basically, I think if you made like one intentional step every week towards the goal. So if it is like go see one property, make a meeting with a realtor, whatever it is, one step, like that's not just sitting on your computer at home, you should be somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Taylor, Jeremy, thank you so much for providing tremendous value to my listeners and sharing your insights and your knowledge, and congratulations on your success so far.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larby. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?